Welcome back to another JIDcast. I'm your host, Dina Gidio, and you're listening to the Closer to the Author podcast, the show that allows students to invest in young adult books and the authors who wrote them. From the classroom to the studio to cyberspace, thank you for tuning in. Today's guest is an accomplished author who has written several successful books such as The Way to Be and The Truth About Twinkie Pie. Ye grew up in Westtown, Pennsylvania, but currently lives with her family in Philadelphia. She has won many awards such as NPR's Best Books of 2015, the Crystal Kite Award, and Chicago Public Library Best Fiction for Older Readers. Please welcome Kat to our show.
Dina, it's my pleasure. Thank you for reading my books and sharing them with your students. It's always exciting when you hear teachers reach out to you.
Well, I have to say, so I'm going to, in complimenting you, I'm going to throw in a humble brag that I feel that my strong suit, that I find books that kids like. And I really, it's a skill that I've honed over the years. And when I found The Truth About Twinkie Pie, I knew it's perfect.
Thank you.
First of all, so it appears very light and sweet, just like, Twinkie Pie, but there are serious issues there. And kids like that. They want the drama. They want the...
Also, like Twinkie Pie, it has layers.
Correct. So what advice would you have for a young person who is interested in becoming a writer?
I think if you're interested in becoming a writer, in terms of writing out of love of writing, just do it. If you want it to be what you do, it in your spare time, do it instead of watching TV or sitting lazing around. Just even if you begin by writing how you feel, and journaling, that's writing, and that's connecting with, whenever I teach writing, for me in particular, I'm always more interested in the kind of writing that makes me feel something, that connects to an emotion, that that there is just a real emotional truth behind the writer's pen or behind the fingers that are tapping away on the laptop. Some people say that writers, especially published writers, are the people for whom writing is the hardest thing.
Interesting.
Because I think that it means a lot, and we take it seriously, and it's a struggle. There's not some magic switch that goes on and it's like, I'm a writer, I can just do one book after the other. And there are people who do that and they're amazing. But I know that for me, it's hard, but I love it so much that, like many things that we love that are hard, it's worth it. There are a couple lines in Twinkie Pie that are verbatim from the rough draft, because it's mostly where the spark of the idea came from when I was first describing how to make Twinkie Pie, and Dee Dee is saying you soak the Twinkies in the maraschino cherry juice until they turn the perfect shade of pinky red, just like cherries in the snow lipstick.
Right.
And then Gigi goes on to say, which is the only lipstick my mama wore. If she went into a drugstore, it wasn't there, she'd go to the next and the next and the next. And I remember writing that line for the first time. And the funny thing about that line was I wrote it when I was trying to figure out, I didn't know the novel, I didn't have a character, I knew nothing about it. All I knew was, this has to do with my sister I'd thrown her a bridal shower, and she'd wanted all this kind of fun, vintagey, kind of kooky food. And afterwards, we were looking at all these Jell-O molds and things like that. And she said, let's write a screenplay like this. And we never did. But years later, I said, I'm going to take that idea and I'm going to start with just writing a recipe. And I did the thing that we've been talking about, which is I didn't decide I'm going to open up recipes and look for one and structure it. I said, I'm just going to write a recipe and make it up off the top of my head. And I'll make it for something like, I don't know, Twinkie Pie. And I had no idea why that was in my head. It just popped into my head, and I just was typing. I just typed, so you take the Twinkies and you cut them in half, and I'm going on and on in this voice. I'm talking about how to make it instead of writing a recipe, and the voice suddenly goes up, takes a left turn, and says, just like cherries in the snow lipstick. And I was surprised when it happened, but I didn't stop myself. I didn't judge it. I didn't think, wow, that's a weird thing to have in a recipe. I just went with it. And I think that because I allowed myself to do this thing that wasn't by the rules, it opened up it became this thing that was just a silly notion, really became the heart of the story because I allowed it. And I think that's the best part about, I think, writing without worrying too much.
Right.
Like, oh, well, I'm just going to what's the worst thing that can happen?
Right.
Delete later, cross it out. You're just write, scribble. I spoke about writing from a place of true emotion, and writing what you feel. I think that I'm nothing like Gigi. I'm not her. I am not a white girl who grew up in the South in a trailer park. I'm just not. I don't have that experience. However, I do know what it's like to wish you could reinvent yourself. And I do know what it's like to wonder if you belong somewhere. And I do know what it's like to miss something or to wish for something that you think you might never have. And when you write from a place of emotional truth, any kind of fiction that you wrap around it feels true to the reader because it is true. And I can't tell you how many people with the truth about Twinkie Pie would come up to me and say, is this based on your family? Are these your family recipes? This always cracked me up because I really had to work hard on those recipes. I think there was only 2 of them that were family recipes, and it was like spaghetti pie that I used to make for my son, and the toast where you put an egg in the hole. But everything else, I had to look up recipes and make them up. I think that what happens too with writing from a place of truth is that people take that truth and it sort of adapts and morphs and becomes the truth that they, the reader, need to read at the time. And I remember this is the second story I had with it. I had a mom from Germany, because it got translated, write to me and thank me for the book. And her daughter wrote to me first, a very, very short letter. And then the mom reached out to me, and the daughter just said, I liked your book, thank you. And the mom reached out to me and she said, this book helped my daughter, who was in a lot of pain and was self-harming herself. And after she read it, it gave her hope. And she kind of asked me about my past and things like that. And I said, I don't have a similar story to your daughter, but I think that, again, emotional truths, they're like little gifts that the person gets to unwrap and see the thing that they want most to see, because they connect to it and then it becomes that thing. And so for that young reader, Twinkie Pie was about hope, and that you can get past this hard time. You can do it. It'll get better. And that's what it was for her.
Right.
And I think that, and for me, that that's where the real life stuff is. The other real life thing that I love is, in terms of the recipes, is Chopped, the cooking show from Food Network.
Yeah.
And that is in there because when I first finished my rough draft, I had the main plot. I loved the story, but there was something missing. And there was something that wasn't tying everything together. And I think I didn't know what the heart of the story was. I knew that Gigi was going to have this certain adventure, and I knew the plot points, but I didn't know the heart of it. And I think young writers, all writers of any age will relate to this. I was looking at my rough draft and I suddenly felt like I had imposter syndrome. And I had already, I believe I had already sold the novel to Little Brown and I was editing it, but I realized they had made a terrible mistake because this book did not have the kind of heartbeat that I wanted it to have. And I remember that particular day when I was just completely distraught and feeling that I had not written the book that they wanted to publish. I just closed my laptop and I wrapped myself up in a blanket and I laid on the sofa and I decided I was just going to watch TV, because what else can you do when you're an imposter? And I lay there and I turned the TV on, and I turned on the Food Network, and Chopped came on. And I love Chopped. It's like one of my favorite shows. And I'm watching it and I'm all weepish and feeling terrible. And I'm watching it, and they open up the mystery basket and they pull out pig's feet and pancake mix and some other thing like peppers or jelly beans or something else. And and I feel this great kinship with the chefs, because I think to myself, and for anybody who is not familiar with Chopped, I feel like the world should be, it's a competition. You don't know what's going to be in the basket and you have to cook with whatever's there. And so I'm feeling this great kinship with them. And I'm thinking, the chefs and I, there's nothing we can do. We have been handed this thing, and basically I will never be published and they will never cook anything out of it. And I'm watching it, I'm lying wrapped up and I'm watching it. And they just, the host says, go. And they start cooking and they start chopping and they start making stuff. And I'm watching and I'm watching and I'm watching. And the time is up and they have these little appetizers, right? And they start offering their appetizers. And and this will say a lot about my personality, burst into tears. I burst into tears. I might cry now thinking about it. Because I realize not only is Chopped the best show on the planet ever, it also was the answer to my novel. And it also represented everything about the way that I want to live life, which is that you never know what will be handed to you, but you get to decide what you're going to make out of it. And it was like this moment where I was like, I've got it, and then I went and I pulled Chopped into it, and that became the theme of what Gigi was going through. And for me, it became such a huge life lesson in so many ways, in that, especially when you're working so hard on something, it's okay to take a break, because sometimes it's those moments when you finally allow yourself to relax and you don't have the pressure of go, 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 that your brain can just sort of do its own little chemistry. And then it's also the thing is, maybe another person would have watched Chopped and maybe nothing would have happened. Or maybe I would have been watching another show, or maybe I would have decided to take a walk instead. But I feel like whatever I saw, that was me turning it into something. And I feel like every writer a lot of writers ask about, where do ideas come from? Ideas are everywhere, but it's what you do with them, And so, that moment could have happened anywhere. It could have happened at a grocery store, it could have happened at a friend's house or at a restaurant, but it happened for me at that moment. And that gave me the lesson of, it made me realize that A, I want to live my life that way, and B, it'll be okay. Ideas are everywhere. It's just when one sort of hits the light in the right way, when you just happen to be looking in that direction, and then you just sort of grab that spark and go with it. And so the Chopped is one of the real life things that I love in the book, because it was such a big moment for me. it was just a great moment. And it felt like a writing lesson too, life and writing.